Good morning. It's another beautiful day here in Washington. Just got the chickens fed and watered, and I've got another small engine project for today. So I've got a Craftsman riding lawnmower with a V-Twin engine, and went out to mow the lawn at the end of the day yesterday and it wouldn't start. So we're gonna see if we can figure out what's going on with that. Come to help, Olive? So here it is. It's a Craftsman LTX1000, sorry. And it's got an upgraded engine on it. So we've got the Briggs Stratton commercial 24 horsepower V-Twin. I picked this one up from a friend who ran a farm actually in non-running condition and got it working again, and it's been a great mower over the years, but today won't start. So I'm gonna figure out what's going on. I'm guessing it's just a carb issue. It doesn't have a fuel shut off. There's no way to run the carb out of gas without running the whole thing out of gas. So that's my guess. Even though I use stabilized non-ethanol fuel, it's still been sitting for a while. So we're gonna take it apart and see if we can get it going. So first thing we're gonna do is take the hood off. So I unplugged this plug here that just plugs the lights in, and then the hood you sort of just lift up and off. So I'll show that in 1 second. All right, so quickly, I want to go over what I've already done. Yesterday, I cranked and battery was fine, and it just cranked and wouldn't fire. Took the air filter off, sprayed some carb cleaner in, fired for a second, and then died again. So what that tells me again is that there's some issue with fuel getting to the right place. If it fires with carb cleaner, it's got spark. I did make sure on these engines, this is the fuel pump. And I made sure that I unhooked this and cranked it, and fuel was coming out. So the fuel pump is working. Fuel is getting at least to the carb. So it's something going on inside the carb is my best guess. So gonna get this thing all taken apart and we'll see what it looks like in there. So first we're gonna take the plastic shroud off. So air filter cover here, there's just these two little knobs on either side. Again, this is the 24 horsepower commercial version, but it's pretty similar to the other non-commercial V-Twins as well. So just these two guys pop that air filter cover off. Air filter comes right out. Then around the side here, there's several 7/16 nuts that don't have to come all the way out. You just loosen them and then this plastic thing comes off. So just wanted to show real quick what I did there. So the air cleaner cover and air filter comes off. There are 2 bolts right here that have to come all the way out. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bolts around the sides that have to just be loosened. And then you do have to take the fuel pump off. So there's 2 Phillips screws there. And then also this bolt here that loosen the oil cleaner. So now this plastic cover should just lift off of here. All right, we got the shroud off. One last step here. There's a 1/2-inch socket. I'm gonna take these 2 guys off. And that's what holds the muffler up. So I'm just gonna put these back in so it doesn't just fall. And now we are looking at the carb. Always a good idea to take a picture of what all this looks like before you take it apart, because sometimes there's always extra holes and stuff for the linkages for different configurations, and it's not always obvious how it's supposed to go back together. All right, so one more quick little thing I'm gonna take off, or I took off, there's 2 T20 Torx screws there, and there's a T25 under here. It's a little spring there. So that removes this piece, which allows even better access to the carb. So now we can see what's going on and get that fuel line off and get everything taken off. So again, we're going to take these 4 bolts on either side, and then I should be able to take this guy off. All right, so that wasn't too bad. Carb is off. I did have to take these 2 breathers out of the way, or off the back, which wasn't too bad. Those 4 intake bolts, unplug the fuel shutoff wire, and then there was 2 linkages. There was one that attached here and one that attached here. I didn't actually need to disconnect this, turns out, but since I marked where it goes, it's easy to put back together. So now we're going to go inside and take it apart and see what it looks like on the inside. Now we're in the shop, got this thing off. I did kind of try and dump the gas out of it. There'll still be some in there, but hopefully not a ton. So now I'm going to take these 4 nuts off, which will get this plastic piece off the back, just make it a little easier to work on. I don't have a rebuild kit for this, since I wasn't really expecting to do this. I just went out and it wouldn't start. So hopefully we can not destroy all the gaskets too much, get it back together, but generally when I am planning ahead to do something like this, I'll make sure and get a rebuild kit to replace all the gaskets and everything while I'm in here. Lifts out of the way. Okay, that gasket doesn't look too bad, which is good. So next I'm gonna take the fuel bowl off the bottom. I'm just see what it looks like in there. I have taken this carb apart before. It's been a while, like years, but I have done it before. When I first got this mower, it wasn't working, so I pulled it apart at that point to see what was going on, and so hasn't been decades since it was apart. All right. So that doesn't look too bad in there. There's a little rust around the fuel shutoff, so I might test that. See if it moves. It does move freely, so that's probably not the problem, but might pull that off as well and clean it up. And looking in here, doesn't look too bad. So I think what I'm going to do is just pull this apart, blow it all out with carb cleaner and compressed air, and then put it back together and see if that solves our problem. So we'll take this pin out, which lets us remove the float and needle. It doesn't look too bad either. Yeah, I feel fine about that. So these 2 screws here. this piece off. So I'll blow out those jets. You do want to be careful, not literally. If you blow air into them, the jets pop out and shoot off into the forest. So don't want to do that. Be careful. These guys here too, these brass tubes, have a bunch of little tiny holes in them, which again, don't appear to be clogged with anything, but we will clean those out as well, and same with that jet in there. So I'm going to go, scrub these out, blow it out with carb cleaner and compressed air, just make sure everything's all smooth in there. There is a gasket on the back of this thing too that you don't want to lose. Make sure and put that back in. Got it all cleaned up. I did pull this thing off out of the bowl too and make sure that it's moving freely. I'll put that back in there, tighten that on there. We're gonna put it all back together. So let's see, first we'll take this gasket on there. Actually put it on there like that. Put this guy back in. None of these screws have to be crazy tight. You don't really want them crazy tight because you don't want to strip things, and a lot of this is plastic. So this guy goes in there. Push it all the way down in. But it gets pushed in by this thing, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Make sure this float needle is clean. And we'll put it in. So to put this guy back in, you slip the needle in there like that, so that it hangs vertically, and then drop it in there. And then this pin slides back through here. Make sure that moves freely. Now we can put this on. Make sure you put it on the same way. You don't want to put it on that way because then this part isn't facing the right direction. So make sure you put it on like that. Maybe we'll do this. Let's take this off. We'll put that on that piece to make sure that it goes in the right way. So I've just put the O-ring over that. And now we're going to put this on. Holding it down because that O-ring is providing some resistance. All right, and now it's ready to go back on. Oops. No, yeah, that's right. All right, now we're ready to go back on the mower. Oh, one last thing. Put this on. Then we'll be ready to go back on the mower. so putting it all back together is basically just reverse order. So now that it's all back together, I think before I get it completely back together, I'm gonna try and start it and see if she fires up. So I tried to start it and it didn't start, and I think I figured out the problem, or at least a problem. So this guy here is a vacuum tube that runs the fuel pump, and it is cracked. It has come off and is definitely not going to be creating vacuum. So I'm going to order another one of those. In the meantime, I think what I'm going to do is wrap some electrical tape around it tightly and see if that is a temporary fix. All right, a little bit janky, but let's see if that fixed it. So it's not running perfectly, but it's definitely running. So we're gonna put it all back together and try and mow the lawn. It still doesn't really want to idle super well, but I'm hoping it's just been sitting so long, and after I just get some fuel moving through the system and get it hot and everything, it'll do better. So we'll see, but yeah, I'm gonna put it back together and we'll be ready to roll. All right, it's all back together. We're gonna give it another start, just see how it's sounding now that everything's back together. I do have the parking brake on in neutral, so it will start. Not too bad, sounding okay. So yeah, hopefully just need to get it warm, let it run for a bit, and we'll be back in business. Well, I took it for a little drive around the property real quick, and it seems to be running great. So might do an oil change later. I got to order a filter, but maybe we'll do a quick video on that. But otherwise, yeah, seems like we're back in business. Honestly, I don't think it was the carb after all. I think it was probably that cracked tube running to the fuel pump that was, providing some fuel, because I did check the fuel was coming out of the fuel line, but guess not enough. Don't really know, but now it's all cleaned out and ready to go back together and hopefully mow the lawn this afternoon once it's warms up a little bit. So thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you learned something, and catch you on the next one.